Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Verse 7. And of the increase of his government there shall be no end. God help us. As we look on the church today, we want to look on, in English, the word church. The meaning of the word church in English. In Greek, it's ecclesia in English. The Romans have used the word church very oftenly, and because of that it have spread right across the world, church. But it's also a religious statement, church. Church is religious. We notice here in the book of 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9, it speaks on ecclesia, this church that is selected, called out, set apart, chosen by God. A lot of people have become confused today, wondering who is the church, what is the church, where is the church. And the building have become, a lot of us, church, and we label the building as the church. So because of that, we have a lot of churches, because the denomination now have been placed on these churches as a label. So we go to this church, we go to that church, church over here, church over there. We leave this church, we leave that church. So the building have become the church. Very common. But ecclesia, this church, is not about religion. It's about government. Nothing to do with politics, but principle, law and order, protocol. This church is about the agency of the kingdom of heaven. We notice in the book of Acts chapter 17 and verse 24 and 25, Paul said, God does not dwell in temple that made with man's hands, neither does he worship with men's hands. Stephen also said in Acts chapter 7 and verse 48 that God does not dwell in temple made with man's hands. He said also that we cannot build any house for God, because heaven is his throne, earth is his footstool. What house can we build for his rest? Because we know that God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. We are not from earth, but we came to earth. We put on earthly bodies, but our spirit, man, we have the spirit of man, but we put on earthly body. That's why we are human. So hue, it means the dirt, the body that we put on is hue, and the man is the spirit. So we do not die. It's a body that goes back to the earth. The spirit lives, spirit never die. Spirit have no gender. That's why the Bible speaks of man. When it speaks of man as a spirit, it means woman also. The difference between man and woman is male and female. So we see where the church, nowadays it's man church. It is surrounded around man. So man have their church. They said that you left my church. Other churches stealing my members. Other churches are stealing my message. I don't want such and such a person to come around my altar, my podium. So we see where it's a man-made thing, it's a religious thing. So we have these different churches. So that's why you have entertainment, you have performance, you have rituals, you have custom, you have all these things, competition in churches, who can have the most members. So we see where the church have become compete against each other. So we see in joining church, people join church, and anything you join will pop off, and you become a member. Ecclesia does not. You don't join ecclesia. You become a citizen of ecclesia. We don't become a member of ecclesia. You become a saint. So ecclesia is totally different from the church that we are accustomed to, where we have Christians. Ecclesia have saints of God, saints of the Most High God. Paul in the book of Acts chapter 19 and verse 39 and 41, Paul said that the church, he didn't use church, he used lawful assembly. The church is an assembly, is a congregation, is a household of faith. And also in 41, he used assembly. It's a congregation. So we see where we join church, we get saved in the church, and we give our name, and it is written in the book in the church, and the pastor put our name up in the Lamb's Book of Life. And we see all these things going on. I don't know if it's dreaming or story or what it is, but we are saved. But it's they that endure to the end shall be saved. So the churches today, they are so confused. People, even the unsaved, are afraid because they see the building also as the church. So when you invite them to the church, they are seeing the building as the church. They are telling you they are not saved. They cannot come to church because unsaved people are at church. So we see even when members are at church in the building and somebody calls them, they said, church not over yet. When they come out of the building and outside and somebody call them, they said they come out of church now. Sometimes they are, even the unsaved, they are confused or whoever calls them because they wonder if they have backslide because they say they come out of church. So it have become so confusing church. So we see where Paul reminds us that it's an assembly, it's a togetherness. The Bible said where 2 or 3 gather together touching anything concerning him, Christ, he's there in the midst to bless and to do good. So the church now, which is ecclesia, it is the agency of God. We read in the Bible about the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is the local assembly of the kingdom of heaven. So the kingdom of heaven is God's throne. Spiritual, it's spiritual. The kingdom of God is here on earth, where he legislates his principle, his protocol, his law, his language and his culture. So when we read in Isaiah chapter 9, where Jesus was coming now, with coming through